Thomas, and I'll start with Senator Francis Heyliger.
Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Hi, good morning. Welcome to the testifiers, my colleagues, as well as to the people of the territory. Commissioner Oreo, could you come up, please? Hi.
Hi, good morning,
Good morning.
Senator.
How are you? Good.
I'm doing well.
I have just a quick house cleaning question. You are the commissioner of DPNR, right?
Correct.
Is that correct? And you're paid
Yes,
handsomely as the commissioner of that department. Who exactly does Dr. William Cole work for?
He works for the department. His immediate supervisor is Dr. Anthony.
Not immediate, but at the end of the day, you are the commissioner of this department, and the buck stops with you. So why do we continuously have an issue in this institution that an employee directly under your purview is consistently refusing to come to answer questions? I'm a little bit confused at what's happening, but hopefully as the commissioner, you're gonna fix it. Okay? Thank you. Question, former Senator Nelson. Commissioner Nelson, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Senator Francis. I'm doing well, and yourself, ma'am?
Excellent. I had an opportunity to talk with you a couple of times, and I attended some of the agriculture meetings that you have had. And one of the things that is very alarming here, looking at some of the information, is number one, in one of the testimonies, they spoke about the median age of farmers right now at 61. And they also had information that even the size of the property has reduced for farming by some 39% between 2007 to up to 2018. I need for you to talk to me a little bit about the farmlands here in the territory that is being utilized by farmers through the agriculture department. Are we seeing production as we need to? Is there any marketing out there to try to bring new, younger, invigorating farmers to this field? Tell me some of the things the department is doing, and talk a little bit about the farmlands available to do farming here in the territory.
Okay, thank you for the question, Senator. As development happens here and in any territory, especially one with limited landmass as we are, we're always going to be competing for use of land. So yes, other interests outside of agriculture is also having an impact on availability of lands. As far as lands in current use or lease or occupied by individuals, we can have better productivity. We agree that a lot of our lands is overgrown, and we've been making an assessment to do some clawback and redistribution of those lands. There's been an increase in interest from a lot of young people, and when the redistribution happens, we're going to try to ensure that there's some set aside for younger farmers in particular, because we're very interested in encouraging younger people. We've taken on the support of what was Future Farmers of America in trying to just build our relationship. We're going to undertake in collaboration with the University of the Virgin Islands something we're calling a Farmers Ambassadors Program. The challenges we have with I guess development with land is that we have many, as I mentioned in my testimony, downtime with the equipment. And because we currently don't have welders, we have breakage that happens frequently because the land is tough. So with the decrease in heavy equipment operators and heavy equipment, we're not able to help to prepare the land as efficiently as we'd like to.
Quick question. Could you expound a little bit more? You spoke about callback and redistribution. Could you explain that a little bit more, not only for myself, but for the listening audience? What exactly is that from your perspective, and why is there a need for it?
Well, when you're looking at individuals who have farmland available to them, and especially with an expanse of time, 10, 15, 20 plus years, and the land is in overgrown bush, it's only fair that we, after making an assessment, that the department pulls those back and we distribute them to other individuals who might be so interested in farming. I have here in my desk right here to my left-hand side, I have about close to 30 proposals for land use. They vary from small crops to small cash crops to larger plots for livestock.
Do you think that this is the best way to go about it, as opposed to potentially, because I'm trying to understand the options. So your suggestion is after this time period and they're not producing is to call it back. Do you think that there could be an option for potentially pairing up some of these new and incoming farmers and younger ones with some of the other ones that might not be producing and maybe create a whole new collaborative? Is that a potential option?
Anything is possible as long as people are willing to work together. But what we find is that individuals try to hold on. If you have an individual getting up in age, you find that the individual try to send correspondence wanting to pass on that property use to an offspring or something like that. So want to maintain it in their control. Okay. So we're actually working on trying to fuse together some of these collaborations like you mentioned, including there's use for individuals like senior citizens, where we're going to set aside some amount. So like there's a real small community concept for seniors to work on. There's even an organization we deal with, individuals who find themselves in unfortunate situations and they want to use farming as a way to sort of restore occupational interest of these individuals. So there's quite a few things we have on the table that if we roll out, we'll be able to add some a new flavor to food production in the territory.
Good. Well, I'll be looking forward to hearing some of these collaboration and new ideas. One of the biggest things that, with me speaking to farmers, and I do this often because I'm a firm believer in us really pushing agriculture here in this territory, has to do with water.
Time.
That is literally, Mr. Chair, could I just finish up?
You may.
Thank you. That is literally the biggest conversation I have with farmers, has to do with water. What is the initial problem with having water being provided to the farmers or them getting access to it? And what are some of the solutions that the department is doing to make sure that water is available to the farmers?
Okay, so some of it is not availability. Some of it is just the ability to store it. We are undertaking, especially when it comes to what's happening in Bordeaux. We are part of a watershed mitigation task force, and we're really trying to look at a comprehensive approach for water, to assess our water and to the distribution of this water. We've locked down, and Assistant Commissioner Collingwood is online. She might be able to give some updates as to the conversation they're having on the task force. I think they've identified some money. The NRCS out of Puerto Rico have identified some money. We are collaborating with DPNR, UVI as well. We got in this conversation, and they've identified some money for the assessment survey. Ms. Collingwood, you want to add to that?
Yes, good morning. Ms. Collingwood, we did identify some funds slated to do a water plan, and we do plan to meet with DPNR because I know the commissioner put out a water plan. We want to approach it from a comprehensive perspective because our community at large has uses for water in different capacities. As the commissioner mentioned, the issue is mostly the storage of the water.
Can you turn on your camera because I don't know who I'm speaking to?
Sure. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning again. I was talking about funds availability for a water plan through the Water Use Data and Research fiscal year 2021 program announcement. If some funds available, we met with the grantors. What we do have to do in the VI is first create a water plan, and that's the initial funding source of $26,000. Once that plan is approved, then we can qualify for increasing increments of funds to phase out a comprehensive plan to address the water situation. As the commissioner had mentioned, the issue is not necessarily the availability of water, but it's the capture and making the water accessible to farmers when they need it. So we really have to work with all partners to comprehensively address the issue. And I think that's the first initiative. The governor did put together a drought mitigation water task force committee, and that's
so
a committee that consists.
You have the $26,000 to do this plan, so we could get on the way.
Well, the plan. Once we do the plan, we have to start the plan, and there's $26,000 allocated to do the plan. And once so that's something that we are working with the U.S. Geological Service
just
on.
To clean this up before I finish, is there a timeline this plan is going to be completed by?
Well, April 15th is when the plan has to be submitted to qualify for additional funding. So we are going to work towards that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
And can I add a point of clarification, Mr. Chair?
Sure, you may, Commissioner.
I just want to clarify that $26,000 is not coming to the Virgin Islands Department of Agriculture. That's with the federal entity. They've identified the monies to pay for that plan, but it's not coming to the local department.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger. Francis Heyliger, you're recognized for 4 minutes.
Hi. Afternoon to my colleagues again, testifiers. I want to quickly go to Commissioner Oriole. Are you still available? Hi.
Senator, good afternoon.
Is Commissioner... Hi, how are you? Afternoon, my dear. I was able to go on DPNR's website and I pulled down some information that you guys had put out, and it was updated January 15, 2021. And it spoke to the $10.7 million that's available from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to rebuild the fishery community to pre-2017 hurricane season viability. And also in your testimony, you spoke a little bit about what the fishermen will be receiving. You spoke about gears, equipment, etc. I'm trying to find out the aspect of it for the financial assistance part. Did all the fishermen receive financial assistance as of this date?
So not according to Senator Sara, there are some fishers who have stated they have not yet received their phase 1 payments. So the answer is no.
Stop. I understand what a senator that does not work in your department says. And I'm trying to figure out, I understand what's happening. I understand what she was saying earlier because I did hear her. But do you have that information, not relying on what the senator says?
Yes, we run rolls from the ERP for liquidation weekly to see which of our requests that were placed the week before got liquidated on the Tuesdays and Thursdays that liquidation takes place from the Department of Finance.
And based on your information, how many of them still need to get their financial assistance?
So we know that there are some phase 2 applications that are incomplete, as well as I believe Dr. Angeli mentioned that 17 of the applications are in processing. So we have not deemed those incomplete. I would say it would be when I was before the disaster committee, there were, I believe, around 52 applications that were pending. And so it would be slightly less than that this, 2 weeks later.
Okay. What is the total amount out of the $10.7 million that went directly to financial assistance?
I believe it was somewhere eligible. We made the application eligible for the majority of the funds, like over 7 or 8 million or so. But we've only received $4.5 million in requests.
And because if you're going to say, let's say over 7 million that of this 10.4, the balance is going to be utilized for the gears and equipment, and of the additional potential 3 million, are you going to continue to reach out to farmers in order to get the monies expended, or what is going to happen if the funds are not expended?
So thank you for the question. The idea is that there are a fixed amount of fishers that are eligible. You had to have been registered as a commercial fisher or helper in 2017 to receive that assistance. So there is a fixed amount of applications, and we believe that over 90% applications have come in. The idea is to discuss with the fishers opportunities for reprogramming those funds, and then we will make a reprogramming request to National Marine Fisheries Service based on the input from the fishers in terms of how we can restore the fishery to pre-disaster condition.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chair, one more question quickly.
Sure, you may.
Thank you. I was looking here at the 2017 Census of Agriculture highlights. It was conducted in 2018. There's a lot of data and information around farming here in the Virgin Islands. And if you ever, just look at it, a lot of the information I was reading, but I'm trying to understand when I'm getting this data from national, but when I'm reading the testimony and I'm trying to understand what we here locally are utilizing to better understand what's happening in our territory outside of what the federal government is doing, do we collect our own data as well, or do we rely strictly on the information provided by the federal government? Because reading the testimony, I'm reading things like, for example, it had statements like, we can say fishermen maintain active license for agriculture in the territory has been and still viable, sustainable, and profitable. We reign at the top of the charts for seafarers stop for fresh and food and water. Now, the thing for me is it's nice to say these things, but I look for data. So I'm trying to understand, what are we doing to substantiate or to even verify that some of these statements are accurate in order to utilize it to help agriculture here in the territory? Anyone from agriculture, since the commissioner is gone?
We do collect data from farmers as they submit licenses. Our trouble has been at this point in time having somebody to even compile that data in a centralized location that we get access those tools. But what we see in the community is a vibrant, well-faring community, and that's what we're reporting on in that statement. But it is true that agriculture has increased. We've seen it in the number of licenses.
Hold on. You're telling me you're going based on what you visually see around the community. So if you see farmers are, selling and they're happy and cheerful, that's what you're going based on? That statement concerns.
That's not what I.
A lot of times, in order to get grants, in order to do a lot of things to help the agriculture industry, you have to have hard data. So telling me that you just collect it, but you don't have anyone to compile it, that's a dangerous statement for me. Because we cannot push agriculture if we don't know what specifically is happening. I could go to any farmer's market or on Saturdays and see everybody there is happy and cheerful and selling. But if I don't have the data to know what was sold, how much was sold, maybe this is an industry we need to push forward to. How many pounds of fish got sold at the market in one location? That is what needs to be collected, not saying that people are happy and you see it's vibrant. We need to focus on that. It's important.
That's not exactly what I said.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the additional time.
Pardon me. Deputy Commissioner and other testifiers, always know that I will give you an opportunity to respond, but try your best not to cut off the senator in the middle of their sentiments, please. I'll always try to give you well, not try, but I'll always give you an opportunity to respond. Deputy Commissioner, I think you wanted to respond there?
Yes, I was trying to say, I thought it was a question that was being posed at the time, so I apologize. It's not just us going into the market and observing who's selling what and doing what. We don't have the data compiled in a central location, but it is data that we do review and go over. Now, we can provide a detailed report today, but that data does exist, and that's what we're basing that off of.
And may I also add that part of our key performance indicators when we do our monthly reports to the government house.
Excuse me, as
Yes.
you're asking to be identified, you have to turn your camera on so that we can see, and state your name and title again, please.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Diana Collingwood, Assistant Commissioner of Agriculture. I wanted to also add that as part of our monthly reporting, we list our key performance indicators as data points. So, for example, how much seedlings we sold, how much water we delivered to farmers, how much produce was sold and shipped. So we are kind of framing our reporting to document, to utilize data. So we will have that data. So that's the process we have utilized to generate data needed based on our production activities at the department. But the data from the farming community, we don't have that at large, and that usually comes from the agricultural census, and that's how it's done nationally.
And hopefully you have the same data that you're talking about that will support your annual report as well.
That's correct, because we do it on a monthly basis, and that information can be compiled.
It could be compiled, but is it being compiled to form an annual report?
It is.
Okay.
It is compiled every month.
Okay. Right.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Please recognize the mic of Senator Alma Francis Heyliger.
Commissioner Oriel, good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
I have good. Quick questions. How much is Mr. Cole's salary?
I don't know the exact number. I would say between the mid 60s
Well,
to
his
70,000.
immediate supervisor is there, so I'm sure she could tell us. Dr. Angeles, I believe. What's his salary?
If you have another question, you could move on to the other one, but I'll make sure that they answer that question, Senator. I'll definitely make sure.
I'm trying for clarity-wise. You're sharing he has a nonprofit as well. Outside of working for DPNR, is there specific hours, X amount he has to work, or he's on call 24/7?
So for DPNR, there are going to be times where you're going to be outside of the normal 8 to 5, depending on the nature of what it is you're working on.
So he's a full-time. So he's a full-time employee, 8 hours.
That's correct.
Minimum.
That's correct.
Okay. Is he paid directly from the local government or from federal grants?
He's paid by the local government through federal grants.
Okay. Today, for example, if his immediate supervisor informed him during his 8 to 5 that he needed to be here at the legislature and he has not shown up, did he turn in anything to your department stating that he would not be in today?
No, he has not.
Okay. And from what I understand, the legislature has been attempting to get him to come before this body several times. And when he did not show up then, what disciplinary action did your department take when he deliberately did not show up after getting a directive?
So again, Senator, the very first time that the discussion on snakes was taking place, my entire Fish and Wildlife staff was in transit to Washington, D.C., or I believe it was South Carolina, for a
You said
meeting
last
with
February.
our
I
federal
got that
grant
part.
donors. So
You said last February.
Honestly,
So
the second time that the snake bill itself was before the 33rd legislature, I honestly don't even recall the second meeting on it.
okay,
I recall
time,
going to rules
his
on it.
immediate supervisor, Commissioner, the immediate supervisor is there, so I'm sure she can answer. Can you tell me at the second time when he was asked to come, did he give a reason for not showing up? Can she hear us?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Senator, for the question. This is Director Nicole Angeli. At the second hearing, we actually did show up to the legislative building that day, but the hearing was canceled this past summer.
Okay. So he made it to the second one and it was canceled.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So this is the third one. I'm just trying to get a timeline so I could understand for decision-making purposes. So this is the third time, and this time he hasn't shown up and hasn't called in.
Just as a matter of record, he did punch in today in the ERP system with a computer punch, but he did not show up or notify us that he would not be here.
Punching in means he didn't come to work. He's just not here. When I worked in the legislature for 22 years, we had to either sign in or punch in. And that's how they knew. So you telling me that and somebody not punching in, that means they ain't come to work. They're not here. So I just needed clarity so I could understand the timeline as to what's happening. So we have his commissioner online. We have his immediate supervisor online. And at some point, we're going to understand that some action is going to take place for an individual not showing up to work, not calling in, and not doing his job specifically that he was directed to do by his supervisor. And I need this to be on the record so I could understand. Because I don't want to walk away from this engagement not so much worried about Mr. Cole, but I'm now more concerned about the overall leadership of this department, where I have two individuals I'm questioning about the whereabouts of an employee, and it's very much concerning to me because the responsibility is to run a whole department. And if you have one employee behaving like this, I'm a little bit questioning how do you handle all the rest of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Afternoon, sir.
I am trying to do my best to do my due diligence and really make a decision on this bill. I know we're setting up a bounty for a series of things, but I would like to ask if we're going to be creating a bounty and doing all these things in trying to protect ourselves or get rid of invasive species, do we have any collected data through DPNR, for example, how many snakes or invasive species or whatever they have disposed of, like say, for example, on an annual basis?
Yes, Senator, we do have data. I'll let Dr. Angeli respond. She can provide you some of the technical things that we look for when we're gathering information and also responding to the technical assistance request.
Good afternoon, Dr. Angeli. For example, how many snakes have you guys assisted with disposing of, or the little, what do you call those alligator-looking ones? The caimans. Do you have any data, for example, of how many of these species you guys have taken out of the Virgin Islands, euthanized, etc.?
Yeah, for each incident, and since I've been on board, each incident that occurs with wildlife, whether it be native or non-native, is recorded in a wildlife reporting form that's available as a print copy and electronically to all staff. Those are filed and logged. So that allows us to go back and pull those data and number for any species that you'd be interested in.
Well,
Today, we've
okay.
had 3
Could you
payments in St. Thomas.
Could you please provide me with that information, because it's pertinent to me trying to make a decision today, okay? There were a couple of other things I wanted to find out. In regards to the bill, there is sections for the requirements. One section has to do with 18 years of age. I know 18 is an adult, and some of these species, some of them might be a little bit dangerous. Do you think that age is a good enough age to start just because it's an adult age? Or do you think we might need to be a little bit older, especially with dealing with some potentially dangerous animals that a little bit more maturity and wisdom might bring? Anyone? Thought process on the age?
Yeah, so the intention of the bill and why there's an educational component is that that age is, first off, an adult, as you stated, but second off, an age where someone would have to go through the educational program, they would take responsibility for their own actions, and we wouldn't issue that educational card until they had successfully completed the certification exam.
Okay. So you think 18 is okay?
I think it is. I started catching snakes when I was about that age.
There's also in here, I want to ask about, there's a section, and I don't know if the sponsors or even from your perspective, there's a section on consent to submit criminal background checks. What was the thought process on that aspect of it? Or
So
what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The American Veterinarian Society, in some cases, states that humane euthanasia may occur with a firearm, with a direct shot to the head. That's standard across some species of domestic animals as well as wildlife. And so if someone was going to use a firearm, as some already permitted collection agents do for the collection of non-Indigenous species, they would have to submit to that background check through the Virgin Islands Police Department.
Also with the bill, and based on the data, because I really need that information to assist me. But when I do get it, hopefully, is that something I can get today, since it's readily available to the staff that you guys can pull it up?
I can get it to you by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
We're trying to vote today, so that's kind of a little
Okay,
late.
give me a little bit, yeah. If you give me about 20 minutes, then I can go in and get that report.
Okay, that would make me happy. It spoke about the transfer of $10,000 from the Animal Fund for the Invasive Species Education Community Program Fund. I want to know about the funding, and maybe that's why I need to know how many of these things that we're engaging with, because I'm wondering if that's adequate enough money. If it's not adequate enough, do we need to adjust it? So I'm trying to get all of this done, but I need data in order to make a decision. So hopefully if you could get me that within 20 minutes, it'll help me just a little bit more to better understand the numbers in this bill and the necessity of it, and potentially maybe if we need to put more funding, etc., depending on the number that you share with me today, okay?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, so as it relates to BOAs, no BOAs were reported in 2011. 2 BOAs were reported in 2012, 2 in 2013, 1 in 2014, but by 2016 and 2015, we had captured 27 BOAs in that year. The following year was 15. That's the last time that we have specific data. After that, St. Croix snakes started to become the preferred community option for snake reports. And so those calls in the past year, we've only received 3 calls in the past 12 months for BOAs. Dr. Kelly responded to each of those 3, and the majority of these other calls are going to this other body that's operating. So I'm not sure that the data we provide may be able to answer the question that you want.
Okay. Well, so quick question. So far, you said the number has dropped when it comes to dealing with, for example, boas. Do you have other information across the board to the various different types of snakes, or is it just limited to data on boa constrictors?
We have data on all of the animals across the board.
Okay. Well, hopefully you could provide that for me. You said in about 20 minutes? Okay.
Yes.
Did she say yes? All righty. Thank you. I'll look out for the information.
Francis Heyliger, you had any follow-up questions? 3 minutes?
What? Good afternoon.
All that
everyone.
time is taken up.
That's okay. Listen. Good afternoon again. Hello? Okay. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask a question to the sponsors. In regards to the requirement of having a driver's license, what is the rationale behind that?
It's required nationally, and one of the things that we saw is that you're able to transport the species to the department if they're unable to come to you.
Okay, so the bounty individuals have to be able to drive, and I was a little bit confused because I wasn't sure if it was a form of identification or if you're just saying they have to be able to drive. But also you made reference, for example, needing access to a mobile device. So are you saying that somebody who doesn't have a car, you could have a license, but you don't have a car? So that's why I wasn't sure if it was just for ID or just saying that you have to be able to drive. That's all I needed to know about that part. Okay, I don't want to eat up any more time because I think we should, hurry up, round this up. That was the only thing I wanted to ask in a point of inquiry, but that's it. Thank you.